time zone that you are, this is JTV, your #1 Christian channel. We have been going through a series of season 1. We carried out our season 1, which is based on our program, Sisi, Sasa, Youth Talent and Innovation. Welcome, and feel free to just see the numbers that are scrolling on your screen. You can always voice a concern, you can always compliment us or give us suggestions on what you see we need to improve. We've been looking out at the outcome of season 1, and we came through 7 items that were very, very loud when the interviews were done with the youth that were interviewed during this process of season 1. One thing that came out was involvement in ministry. Believe it or not, the youth actually want to be involved in ministry. The second thing is that the youth cited very many issues to do with family relationships and family. Yes. And then the third item was relationship management. This came out very loud. The youth would love to be involved in a relationship, whether it is on friendship, it's on family, it's around people around them. They love relationships, but how to manage these relationships is cryptic to them. And then we had the aspect of innovation. The youth are very innovative people. They have these ideas that keep coming to them, and they don't know how or where to get the innovation implemented. Then there is the issue of prayer. We did state in our other shows that there was a lot of demand for prayer. And a lot of youth came up with the statements, please pray for me, please pray for my mom. And this was a concern, and we are going to address it. We addressed it in one of our second session about the need for prayer and even what makes prayer, because most of them do not understand how to pray. Then we had the issue of education, and education was very much related with finances. A lot of people who are very good and who can actually get to higher echelons in life are actually not doing that because of poverty and lack of finances. Then lastly, they talked about careers. And careers heavily was divided between being employed and running their own businesses. Interestingly, the youth actually want to do their own business. They want to be engaged, and this tied very, very much with innovation, because they feel that if they are led and trained in a way that they can get the innovation turned into a hustle. You know, we are a hustling nation. Then careers took 2 stands, but most of the youth actually voted that they need their businesses. And so these are the 7 things we've been addressing, and this is JTV, your #1 Christian channel. We will be today discussing relationships, the second part of relationships. Stay tuned. Relationships. I am your program host. My name is Reverend Catherine Gambi, and I'll be taking you through this second aspect of looking at relationships. And I'll largely borrow and complement work that has been done by leaders in this area. There's a lot of information out there on relationships. A lot of books have been written out there on relationship. Indeed, leadership heavily leans on how to manage relationships. So, if there is so much information out there, why is it being voted as the #1 problem amongst the youth? When you look at some of the words of very good people who have done a lot of work, we see that John C. Maxwell, a world leadership trainer, says the quality of our relationship determines the quality of our life. He also stated that all things being equal, people will work with people they like. And even all things not being equal, they still will. So people tend to work with people they like. And this, we see it playing itself in workplaces, in churches, everywhere where there are groups of people coming together to work. People will always tend to cluster around people who they like. So when we look at relationships, then we see throughout life, man has like 4 stages. There is the stage of birth. Oh, we have gotten a baby boy, a baby girl. There is that aspect of birth. So birth is contained within our culture, within our cultural setting. We grow up. And so doing life is another, the development part of our life. Where do we grow? Which kind of friends do we make? Which schools do we attend to? Which churches do we go? And so another sort of relationships come up, and how we circumvent around these relationships, how we do life, plays itself out in the person that we become. And soon comes another stage in life, reproduction. People get married. People look for a life partner. And in comes another cryptic relationship there, because these 2 people meeting are from 2 different settings. So there is the relationship, the man comes from a family, a certain setting, the way he's been brought up, and the lady also equally has the same sort of stages. And so they come as 2 people brought up differently, but love brings them together. And so they choose to get married and choose to get a family. Now, this relationship of marriage is so important, and we see this is one of the areas that the youth have a big, huge problem. They are not able to come up with good choices, and even when they make the good choices, they are not stable in marriages. People have brought up new interesting levels of working in marriages. And one of the issues that marriages have is people are divorcing much more than they used to. People are choosing other methods of living together. They come with stay methodologies. And we are beginning to see the youth come up with interesting concepts like my baby mama, my baby daddy. Now, very good, very selfish moves, because they tend to be moves that have favored the 2 people coming together, but the child is the collateral damage. Who does this child relate with? And most youth are marrying outside their tribe now, and so we are finding cultures are coming in, and so the child is brought up in a context that is called, we are doing co-parenting. Now, co-parenting is another new dimension that has come up in relationships. And like I said, the baby becomes the collateral damage because they are brought up in different circumstances. Does God advocate for this? No. God is a relational God. For those who have just joined us, this is Jtv, your #1 Christian channel. The program is Sisi, Sasa, Youth, Talent and Innovation, and we are tackling the topic relationships. And so when we look at relationships, we look at the direction that the youth are seeking. It's actually a cry. How do we do this? Now we notice the last stage in life is the 4th stage, which is death. Now by the time people are leaving this world, either through age or through circumstances, illness, whatever gets your exit out of this world, there's a lot of regret. Most people talk in terms of, I want to leave a legacy, but how do I do that? So as we seek to look at relationships from the lens of these 4 stages: birth, where we grow up in, development, and then reproduction and death. How do we do life? And so, most of life's great experience, they resonate around what happens within our minds and what happens within our hearts, and they involve other people, unfortunately or fortunately. Because we say God is a relational God. He seeks to have fellowship with us. And so, rarely do we experience this issue of relationships alone. We experience them with other people. And even when we do, our first is, even when we experience anything on our own, our first issue is to tell them to other people. This is what I experienced. So we always share. And isn't it a wonder that we have social media? What is social media? Social media revolves around relationship. The likes, it's other people liking you, liking your stuff, liking what you're posting. Who are influencers? These things were not there before, but now they are there. Influencers is about other people seeing you as an influencer of a certain trend. And so, thinking back, what is the most important experience in your life? Is one of the things that we ought to ask. What are the highest highs in our life? What are the greatest victories that we came across? What are the most daunting obstacles that we came through in our life? What did we overcome? How did we overcome them? How many of them happened when we were alone? Probably very few, I must say. When we understand that being connected to others is one of life's greatest joy, then we will see the importance of relationship. That actually most of life's problems revolve around relationships. In fact, the greatest work that a human resource manager has is to manage people, not systems. Systems have already been put there. They will manage the paper flow and the paperwork. But what about the soft aspects of people? That they are emotional. Remember that we started and said human beings are 5-dimensional. They are first and foremost born, yes, but they are emotional beings. They feel, they have wills, they have feelings. They are social people, and that's what we are discussing in terms of relationship. They relate with others. You cannot stay, man cannot stay as an island. Then we know that there is also the aspect that has the intellect, yeah, our mind and the intellect. Education falls largely there, and we over-celebrate education. But that's just one aspect of a human being. Then we have another aspect, which is the spiritual aspect of man. And of course, lastly, is the physical. What we see. Are you healthy? Are you okay? That manifests in who you are. So this 5D, let's keep this in mind even as we are looking at these relationships. Few things in life are more important than our relationships with other people. The quality of our relationship impacts every area of our life. That quality, when you make bad decisions, bad relationships, it impacts in who you are. So what are some of the stuff that we need to look at when we are looking at relationships? One of the things is that trust. Trust is the foundation of every relationship. Trust is a foundational aspect, a value that we need to look at very, very clearly. Developing trust is like creating the foundation of a building. It takes time and effort. There must be time and effort. In fact, we use the statement, mwanaume ni effort, but I would tweak it a bit and say, relationship ni effort. Yeah, for you to come across a relationship that is quality, you have to have taken a lot of time, kukagua, kuchuja, kufanya vetting, because a lot of these things are based on pretense. And that is why marriages are breaking, because when we are not ourselves and when we don't trust each other, we cause pain to each other. And marriages that could have survived the test of time, people give up too easily, just largely because of this word, trust. I don't trust you. So when trust happens and the foundation of our relationship is built well, the building that stands on it, which is either the marriage or the relationship that we are going through, it stands on a solid foundation. But when trust is not part of it, then it can weather, it can bring negativity, it can cause pain. But when the relationship stands on a firm foundation, it can weather the storms of life, the earthquakes that come. Because every relationship has to have some earthquakes, some storms. People interfere in relationships. You come across negative situations. It's not all smooth. There are bumpy roads somewhere there. But have we developed trust? Can we hold each other's hand? Is the foundation solid and strong? And indeed, Jesus did tell us about foundations. That a house that is built on the rock, a house that is built on a firm foundation, weathers the storm. When the wind comes, when earthquakes come, it stands firm. But if you build it on sand, which is an aspect of what the youth came up with, they have relationships that are not solid. And so when anything comes, it hits it out of context. So trust is a foundational aspect of every relationship. Another issue is that we need to look at in relationships is every person either lifts others up or takes them down. That's the aspect of how people do life. Some people just have PhD degrees in bringing others down. You state anything and they just want to bring you down. Others are encouragers, and like in ministry we say the Barnabas principle. Yeah, Barnabas encouraged Paul through his ministry. And so when we look at this, are we encouragers? Do we lift other people up when we see they are down? Do we get concerned? And so we find relationships, people are the sources of our greatest joy, and they are also the sources of our greatest challenges. So we have the elevator principle. John, again borrowed from John C. Maxwell, a leader in training of leaders. And we see that he has what he calls the elevator principle, which says we can lift people up or take people down in our relationships. That's the elevator principle. When we help and encourage others, we lift them up. We add to their lives. We bring joy to their lives. They experience joy. And indeed, the aspect of the joy of the Lord comes there, because God and the spiritual life is about lifting others up. We are told there is more joy in giving than in receiving. And this is one aspect of the relationship that we need to take care of. We lift other people up. And this lifting them up is not because they deserve it or because of anything else. It's because we are, first and foremost, people who need joy in our lives. And when we give, we receive. That's the principle that God teaches us. So when we are negative, and we need to audit ourselves, when we are negative and selfish, we take people down. We bring them down. So every day in the morning as we wake up and when we have devotions, we need to ask ourselves the question, what do we choose? Do we make a choice to lift people up, or do we make a choice to bring people down? For those who have just joined us, this is JTV, your #1 Christian channel. I'm your program host, Reverend Catherine Gambi, bringing you ni sisi, sasa, youth, talent and innovation. I just want us to take a break at this particular juncture when we visit one of the dramas that was shown in season 1, just to see how relationships form up we had one of the winning dramas, Utatu. I just want us to look and glean at some of the things that were noticed in relationships that are being formed in a setting where people have a difficulty in negotiating their relationship. Let's take this break and we will be back shortly. This is Sisi, Sasa program for the youth.
Leo nimechoka kweli. Masai. Hello. Masai ameenda figetini.
Ila namna gani?
Salama Masai.
Niko salama.
Kabisa.
Haya, unatoka wapi?
Si unaona nimetoka wapi wewe uone vile nakaa?
Haya, ila kwani nilikuwa nalala kwa mtaro?
Masai bwana.
Lakini ila kwa chafu.
Niko chafu?
Sana.
Anaenda kuoga.
Lakini unaenda kuoga? Lakini uko salama?
Niko poa.
Naendelea aje?
Wewe linda bwana. Sawa? Niko sawa.
Sasa safari salama.
Sis. Mambo.
Sasa.
Poa.
Aki unanuka uko mchafu. Umetoka wapi?
Umeanza mambo yako sasa.
Ni ukweli, nani haoni?
Sio nenda kutafuta pesa.
Hata kama
bro. Fanya hivi. Acha nikaoge, nifue kidogo alafu.
Fua.
Alafu. Panganga yupo.
Ako.
Ananikatishaga. Lakini leo tutamalizana.
Lazima.
Acha nifue. Yale maji nani alikuwa anatumia?
Hata nilikuwa nataka kutumia but unaweza itumia.
Sinaweza nikatumia? Acha nitumie basi alafu tutaongea baadaye. Wewe chill kiasi.
Mimi niko tu hapa.
Sawa sis.
This will do. Nini nanuka hapa? Wewe takataka ya mtu unafanya nini hapa? Maji sabuni unatumia ya nani? Nakuuliza unatumia nani? Unatumia nani? Maji sabuni unatumia nani?
Sis.
Ni nini? Masai?
Wewe.
Njoo hapa. Kazi yako nini kwa nyumba?
Ni kuangalia milango.
Wewe ni mbwa ya hii.
Zini kwa hapa.
Nimesema wewe ni mbwa ya hii nyumba. Umesikia? Nisione takataka la mtu.
Sasa unataka niende wapi?
Sijui.
Hapa ni kwetu.
Nenda kwa kaburi la mamako. Na kama mamako.
Ni mrara ya nyumba.
Hebu beba, fanya kazi yako Masai. Umesahau kazi yako.
Hero mape.
Masai, takataka la mtu laana wewe. Toka nje, nenda.
Hero yanda.
Na nimpate.
Sawa, hakuna kurudi. Ataenda mara moja.
Sasa haya mateso.
He's our brother. What are you doing to him?
My foot.
He's our brother. Umefukuza anaenda wapi?
Aende kwa kaburi la mamake. Wadhani mimi najali? Si jali.
Okay, ujali. Assume it were you or even your son. Would you done the same?
Sio mimi na sina mtoto. Okay. Na ujue kwa mimi ni dadako mkubwa, uniheshimu.
Really? Big C's. It's not fair.
Sasa jioni usiku nitaenda kulala wapi mimi?
Ilikuwa hii nyumba ilikuwa ni moto. Sasa mimi nashunga unga yangu. Tata basali kijana mara mbili. Na ataenda kama ng'ombe. Hakuna kusinganga hapa. Ikikuja teke. Hakuna kusimama.
Lazima nirudi nyumbani.
Kijana ni mkali.
Dada, unasikia sauti? Naringia nani?
Masai.
Wewe.
Nini nasikia huko nje unaongea na nani? Kwani wewe ni mwanazimu?
Nalikuwa naimba niko na furaha. Nakumbuka nyumbani. Hakuna kitu.
Nimpate.
Hakuna kupata.
Nimpate.
Hakuna. Hero.
Masai.
Hero
Amenda.
Inaumana.
Masai acha niingie basi niingie. Sasa nitalala wapi?
Utamwaga.
Masai unajua mimi ni mtoto hapa nyumbani tangia utoto.
Lakini wewe hakuna nguvu. Hiyo ndio shida. Sasa msichana na kukalia wewe kukalia. Kwani wewe ni mwanaume?
Wewe acha.
Mwanaume kitairiwa anakuwa mwanaume.
Wewe acha mambo yako.
Ngoja nakusaidia. Sasa pika kwa nyumba. Hiyo msichana, hapana pembeleza. Piga makofi mpaka makofi 10.
Wewe unataka nipelekwe jela?
Hakuna shida. Si wewe uko na haki. Sasa najua wewe uko na kitu moja wewe. Shida yako si kule nakimbishwa. Nakuja nyumbani hata hakuna mkate, hakuna sweet.
Babangu si ameacha pesa.
Lakini wewe enda tu wewe omba Mungu usipelekwe.
Umerudi brother.
Ameshakuja.
Ati umemwitaje? Wewe kijana takataka, unafanya nini hapa?
Sasa usiku nenda kulala wapi?
Nilisema nenda kalale kwa kaburi la mamako. Hapa kuna ukoo yako. Tuafanana. Nini umebakisha nguo zako? Okay, zinaniletea harufu kwa hii nyumba. Nenda. Nani sikuwa Masai? Umesahau kazi yako wewe, sitakulipa wewe. Umesahau kazi yako. Hebu toa huyu takataka la mtu.
Mara ya mwisho. Ni mara ya mwisho saa hii hakuna kukuja.
Nimesema toe nje, sitaki kumuona. Na ujue jua kuwa mimi ndio wa kwanza hapa. Baba. Kikombe nimekinywea. Wapi mimi? Nimechukua.
Mama umeniacha nani?
Nifu nimevumilia.
Ndio mama wangu umeniacha nani? Mama amka mama. Mama umeniacha nani mama? Leo nateseka mama yangu. Mama umeniacha nani? Mama uliniacha nani? Mama amka uniambie. Dada amka. Dada, nimeona nimefanya makosa. Dada nisikize. Dada, nataka tuende tukamtafute Nick.
Sai usiku.
Dada tafadhali, watu ukosea. Nataka tuende tumtafute Nick.
Saida, umeona ako na maana sana, si ndio?
Watu ukosea dada, nataka tuende tumtafute Nick. Namhitaji Nick.
Ni usiku, tutamtafuta asubuhi. Sasa hata sasa tukianza kumtafuta tunamtoa wapi?
Ni sawa basi, asubuhi na mapema. Dada, ni asubuhi, amka twende tumtafute Nick. Amka. Dada amka. Twende tumtafute ndugu yetu.
Ni asubuhi, kwani hata tukunywe chai?
Dada, hatuna hiyo muda, twende. Asante dada.
Masai, habari ya asubuhi?
Salama sana. Yeko salama?
Umeamka vizuri?
Ni saidi sana na wewe?
Haya, tuko sawa.
Na leo uko poa. Mnatakaje?
Sisi tunatoka, tunarudi baadaye.
Mnaenda kusurura?
Tunaenda kutafuta Nick.
Kutafuta?
Na ukimwona hapa kwa gate,
nipeleke kwa nyumba.
Mwambie asiende.
Nimweka hapa. Sawa. Hata msikuje mkono kafu.
Sawa.
Mkalete nyama choma.
Sawa. Ndio you Nick.
Ndugu, naomba unisamehe. Nilifanya makosa ile ambayo nilikukosea ndugu, nisamehe. Nimetambua kuwa wewe ni ndugu yangu. Twende nyumbani.
Masai.
Ewe.
Fungua.
Ndugu, karibu kiti. Njoo kae. Karibu. Tumekaribisha nyumbani. Na ndugu, nimekubali kuwa nilifanya makosa. Ile maneno yote ambayo nilikupa, naomba unisamehe. Na nimetambua kuwa wewe ndiye ndugu yetu wa kwanza. Wewe ndiye kiongozi kwa nyumba hii. Ndugu, naomba unisamehe. Ndugu, naomba unisamehe.
Mimi nimewasamehe, nawapenda kama ndugu zangu, lakini unayafanya sio mazuri. Hata mimi ni mtoto wa mamangu, unanitukania mamangu. Mimi pia nimezaliwa, lakini kwa sababu mimi najua neno ni nini, nimekusamehe.
Asante.
Kujeni ndugu zangu.
Masai,
We,
kuja.
Haya,
Mbona unachungulia hapo? Kuja.
hapana, nilikuwa nataka kuona mtaingia.
Kuja. Sasa.
Auntie. Habari.
Nzuri.
Habari auntie. Hero umekuwa mwanaume. Karibu.
Masai.
We.
Sasa tunataka kufanya party hapa.
Eti party nini?
Nika amerudi, party, sherehe.
Oh, supuku.
Hiyo. Sasa
tunataka kutengeneza.
Tunataka kutengeneza.
Tutakula nyama?
Nyama, supu, kichwa, kila kitu.
Hata hakuna mboga?
Hakuna mboga.
Aya. Na tutakunywa hii maji ya matunda.
Yote.
Hiyo itakuwa msudi.
Sawa.
Leo kuja nikuonyeshe. Leo kuja hapa.
Sisi.
Leo nasalimia. Sasa wewe kama mwanaume, sasa wasichana kanyanga. Leo naomba. So hata mimi naomba hiyo wasichana dada yako, hata mimi ni hang kidogo wewe dada yako.
Umeanza mambo.
Leo nipatie ruhusa.
Masai, umetumwa.
Sawa.
We have seen the complexity of relationships and the points we talked about. The aspect that every person either lifts others up or takes them down. What did you notice in that drama? That despite there was one who loved and who was an encourager, there was another one who was negative, bringing someone down, always talking down at this other person. This is the relationship that we have seen. This drama brought it out awesomely. And this is the aspect of life. We have another concept we ought to look at. And that concept is believing the best in people usually brings out the best in people. When you believe the best of people, it brings out their best. So this is why we have people coaching others so that people are not negative. Indeed, when we do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, we look at this principle that says bringing the best in people usually brings out the best in people. People are employed for their strength. They are not employed for their weakness. And so we always find organizations, when they want to fire you, they will have a negative person bringing you down all the time. And how do they do that? They use the Peter principle. The Peter principle is a principle where you take somebody in an area where their strength is not. And so when we look at this, each of us has a choice in life. We can see the worst in people and base our treatment of them on low expectation, because when we don't expect much from them, we also don't, put time and concept into them. But we can choose to see the best in them and treat them accordingly. And so this is really the relationship part of life. It's true that everyone gets disappointed by others in life. That's true. Everyone gets hurt at some stage in their life. Everyone has trust and confidence misused, but our most past disappointments, they don't have to color our future. We can do something about our future. We don't have to dwell in the pain of the past. We can and should try to build solid relationships, starting with the people closest and most important to us. That's our family, as we saw in our past episodes. And relating to people from others basically stems from correcting what happened in our family. This is your program host, Reverend Catherine Gambi. I just want us to just take a moment and look at relationships within the context of family. If we know how to repair what, then we will glean into the past. and clean it up and not base our relationships on the past. We need to forge ahead and think the best of people so that we can bring out the best in them. And collectively, when we do that with everyone, then we are like Jesus Christ. Jesus chose the 12 with strengths and weaknesses and brought the best out of them. That's why 12 disciples were able to turn the world upside down. This is JTV, your #1 Christian channel. This is your program, ni Sisi Sasa, Youth Talent and Innovation, brought by your host, Reverend Catherine Gambi. So nimemaliza sasa ni outro, si ndio? Okay, ile dakika 5. Okay, so we have discussed the context of relationships and the quality of relationships. How do we get there? How do we make quality lives? And we have gone through the aspect of trust as the foundation. We have also seen that every person either lifts people up or brings people down. And then we've also seen that believing the best in people usually brings out the best in people. And so, as we look at new lenses that we are forming that are helping us to form relationships, we now look at ourselves and say, so what are the benefits that we get out of this? When we develop good relationships with people, we experience benefits. And some of the benefits that they experience is we live well with people. We live at peace with others. We also, by doing this, develop very strong networks of people who want the best for us. Yeah? Another third benefit is we experience the satisfaction of meeting the needs of others. We also have a fourth benefit, which is we experience the harmony of being treated as well as we treat others. So that harmony begins to be a benefit. And lastly, we are more likely to receive support from others when we need it. These are the benefits of good relationships. And for our last action point, what do we get from here? How do we live life? How do we take the next step? In Kenya, we are known as people who don't implement. But I'd like us to carry some steps that we need to work on our relationship. One is put others first. It does help to put others first. That when we become secondary, love is experienced by putting others first. We remember that people come first, and the quality of our relationships is about people. So put others first. So focus on serving others and putting